Welcome everyone to My Child, My Voice Parent Connection Show. I'm Wendy Gonzalez-Neal.
I am Shea Mackin.
And today's Monday.
I know. It's
September 21st. September's almost, basically over.
I know. Like one more week, really. And then
Almost.
I already decorated my house for Halloween, y'all.
I have to say I'm ready to do that now.
Like I've got the fall scent candles going, but it's rainy here. And so I'm like, it feels, even though I still have to wear flip-flops and a short sleeve shirt, it feels like fall.
But the heat is, it's gotten cooler out here, I have to say. Right now, that's why it looks so bright over here because, it's dark over here in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
So, I have to say, it's pretty good. But this past weekend, I think, our nation was in shock. It was a very sad weekend, I think. America lost a true freedom fighter. Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away. It was sad to hear that she did, because you think about everything she's done. Such a firecracker.
But she's left such an amazing legacy and started so many movements, for women and social justice and things, that it's someone that I think, our children's children will learn about.
Yeah, she was on the federal bench for like 25 years. And just the things that she had to deal with when she was younger, back in the 60s, deals, with discrimination, and how she changed it. It's such an amazing story. If anyone's ever seen the movie, the Basics of Sex, it's about her story and how she started and why. But you have to think about the time that she was growing up, the time that she was married, how that looked like in our nation and what she had to deal with, not only in college, law school. She dealt with discrimination right after she graduated. Not only in a male-dominant college, she also had to deal with discrimination when she was trying to find a job after college and law school. They wouldn't hire her because she was a female. And then there's so much to talk about her. I'm just in awe about her because I had the pleasure of writing a report on her in college. And, back then I really didn't understand the Supreme Court justices, and we were told, you need to pick a justice. And so I picked her. And when I really started knowing about her, I really realized everything she's done for not only women, but just all of her work that she's done and changed, for all of these years. And then her famous lace collar. I don't know if anybody ever noticed her lace collars that she would wear. What they call jabot. I didn't even know that word.
I didn't know that word either. I thought it was a lace collar.
I call it, and then, anytime she would wear it, anytime she had a disagreement. I think the part that I really loved researching about her is when I was reading about that, because that's when I was learning about her, it's like, why is she wearing that? And you think about when the Supreme Justices are wearing their robes, you would always see the males with their collared shirts and their ties. And that's what, it represented the man. And then she was like, okay, so me and Sandra Day O'Connor thought it would be appropriate to have something like this that represents a typical woman. Who says it does it? And she's known for that. If you ever look at any of her pictures, that's what she's known for. You'll see them all. Yeah. That's what's just so unique about her, and what she's done. It's just amazing. I think we'll probably be talking about her more when I'm on another show.
Well, and I think because of the times, right? Mm-hmm. That movement, that's why it's such a big deal about the things that she did, because of the time, right? And now with everything, there's a great awakening in movement for education change.
Yeah, because she was a change, then and now. I mean, because she was, if you really think about it, she was the first woman to be hired with tenure at Columbia University. I mean, to think that they didn't have that. So it's really amazing to really read the story. I hope everybody gets a chance to really learn who she is and what she's done for our nation.
Yep.
And I'm so excited to talk about what we're going to talk about today, about the Parent Leadership Conference.
Well, and the important part of why we wanted to talk about that Parent Leadership Conference was because parents are the ones who will make a difference. If education is going to change, it has to be parents that push for that change, right?
Exactly.
To make that change happen. And so the parents of today will all have a small part in making that change. We may not in 20 years be the story like Sandra Day O'Connor, right? They're not going to talk about Shea Mackin in that way with education change. That's okay. I just need to do my small part. And as even if all that you're have the capability and the bandwidth to fight for is for your own child, and making sure that the education needle moves for your child, then you're a hero to your child, right? And your posterity, really, even. Because if you can make a change in your child's education, that will make a change to your grandchildren.
Yes. And then, it makes a big difference. And now we're seeing that parents are taking the lead, in our nation. And that we actually are starting to, come together and speak more of our voices and demand change.
Right. And we've had leaders, for, 2 decades, kind of at the very beginnings of educational change, that have really been laying the groundwork. And the Parent Leadership Conference that happened this last week virtually, that we talked about, last Monday, this is its 12th year, I believe, 12th or 13th year. That was bad. I don't know. But it's 12th or 13th year. So, the groundwork has been being laid. And so you as a parent watcher, whoever's watching the show, know that you're not having to completely blaze a new trail. And there are people who have been doing this that you can link arms with, and who will, no matter what, go to bat. They don't care that but you're not my child, it's not my child. No, these people are fighting for your child, and then will help you learn how to fight for your child. So the Parent Leadership Conference was, I think, a great asset to be able to go to, and go back and watch, for sure.
I think that's a great thing to watch. I know a lot of parents would ask, who is this person you're talking about, or why do you follow this person, or what book are you bringing? Because I always bring Virginia Walden's Ford's book, Voices, Choices, and Second Chances. I always bring that book, or even bring Ed Choice data books where I'm talking about information. I'm bringing to them about what other states are doing and what our states are not doing. That's the key thing is, organizations like PSO, I'm going to say PSO because it's
public school options, yes.
Public school options, where they're bringing this now to families for free. And so you get an opportunity not to just know about these leaders, but learn about some policy work that has been done in these other states, the great work that's been doing, what is going to be happening, what they foresee coming up, especially during this presidential election. And then like in Texas, you guys talked about, Texas policy, which I think is great. And we're going to deep dive in that a little bit. So this is a great opportunity for you to just, like when at night, when the kids are asleep and you're just, decompressing, you can log in on your phone, on your computer, whatever you have, and you go in and you watch whatever one interests you and listen to what they have to say so that you can get a grasp of what's happening around our nation.
Right. And if you did not get a chance, I know that we had a lot more people register than watched live, and that we knew that would be the case, right? Because people have to work, people are their learning coaches, or their kids are digitally, distance learning, things like that. And so if you did register, you can still go on to the link that was emailed to you for Parent Leadership Conference and go back in to the resources portion and watch the whole thing, all day Monday, all day Tuesday. But we know not everybody was able to go in and register too. So we figured today we would talk about some highlights from the show, lessons learned, because at this point, the way it works right now, you can't go back in and register and go watch it. Now, if you already registered, you can go watch it, but they are in talks with the people that spoke about who will let us utilize their recording, right, of them speaking outside of those 2 days of conference. So we know some parts of it. We don't know if the entire thing will be able to be used post-conference. But whatever they release, we'll make sure that you know where to find that.
And we'll make sure to share that information, both me and Shea, to let you know when that comes out.
Yeah. But we figured we kind of, it was 10 hours of conferencing. I know Wendy had to work during that. I was working, but I was sewing for my sewing job. So I just was sewing while I listened. So I was there for 10 hours trying to take notes for everybody. So within, the next just 40 minutes or so, we'll try and talk about some of the highlights of lessons learned so that you can have some of the big takeaways from 10 hours worth of conferencing.
And it actually made it really easy if you were registered, because like Shea mentioned, I have my other job and I couldn't watch everything the whole day. It was great to go back in, watch at my time. If I miss something, I can go back and, listen to Virginia Walden Ford, or listen to Howard Fuller, or Corey DeAngelis, and a whole bunch of other leaders that came on. But let's start deep diving on, what was
let's jump in.
Great.
I really loved, I think it was Andrew Campanella said, this is a great awakening.
Yeah.
Time of great awakening for people to wake up and go, when you were just kind of coasting through thinking, sure, my education works for my kid, but maybe little light bulbs are going off going, oh, maybe this wasn't working for my kid. Or you're understanding that there are more options out there for your kid than the assigned school that the government takes your kid and assigns them to a school. And maybe that school works for some kids, but maybe it doesn't work for your kid. Or even within that school, what isn't working and what can we change within that school, and have them look outside the box in the school to kind of wake up to some innovation and things that they can do.
Yeah, well, exactly. Because I think that what I loved what he said is how he talked about school choice movement is powered by our stories, and he's meaning parent stories. And then he also brought about how seeing parents, building these pods, helping one another. It was just really neat to really listen to him talking about the work, but he was talking about our work of parents, what he was seeing.
Right.
How we came together.
Yeah. Andrew Campanella with National School Choice Week is amazing. One of the panels was a panel that I happened to be on as well. And I'm not, super biased, but a little bit, just because I really appreciate everybody that was on that panel. And it was a joy to work with them and tell my staff, hey, this is who I want on our panel.
Well, especially when you had former Texas State Senator Shapiro.
Yeah.
Shapiro on there.
She's a powerhouse, and I am grateful that even though she is not, an elected official for the state of Texas anymore, that she's still fighting the fight for parents.
Yeah.
And wanting to help parents and parent organizations really understand how to get in and talk to the legislators, and really just to tell them, look, I was a regular person. I'm still a regular person. And all these people are regular people. So call them up, and it is their job to talk to you.
But I really did like coming from an elected official, what Shapiro had said is that she's confident that the online learning will be the focus coming up this legislative session here in Texas. And she was bringing about a lot of things too about parents that, the best voices right now is us parents, to make, especially if we're going to say, we did switch, or we switched to online learning, is to make that a focus and make sure to let those legislators know, that this is important to us. And it's really nice to hear elected official talk about that, saying, she's talking about parents and how we need to really be more vocal with our elected officials and let them know.
Right. And understanding, that we need to expand the options in Texas, whether they're online or brick and mortar.
Right.
What we don't want to have happen in Texas is what's happening in LA County right now. The teachers have been saying, we're not going to go back into the classroom, or sure, we'll go back into the classroom, but you have to put a block on any new charters from opening. And if you do have a charter, you need to put a cap on it, because we don't want that competition. Instead of looking at the child as an individual and educating them in the way that works best for them, they're looking at them as commodity. And I don't want in Texas for our students to be looked at as a commodity. And
right.
Yes, I'm super excited, and they talked about it during Parent Leadership Conference for National Coalition for Public School Options, how some options for some charters have been able to open full-time online schools, not just distance learning, but actual full-time online schools. And they have right now the waiver to be able to do that for this school year. But that waiver can go away after May. And because the pre-existing pre-COVID barriers where no new schools could do that. But I know for a fact of multiple districts and charters that have been wanting to do this for years and did not have the ability because there was a law in place where they couldn't open a new school.
And that's what makes it so unique, is that all of these districts are wanting to do this, right? They're wanting to do these innovations. They want to go do the online learning, but the barriers were there that they couldn't. And I think, Bryce Adams was talking a lot about that on your panel, where we need to bring that focus on the instruction and lift those barriers for those schools so that it gives more options for parents that want that.
And for the school to be innovative, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's for their high performing students or their kids that are struggling, and where a lot of times in the brick and mortar in-person classroom that's face to face, you're kind of teaching to the middle ground, and you lose the higher achievers and you lose the lower achievers. Or like me growing up, I needed to work during high school to help pay bills.
Yeah.
And if I could have then worked all day, a larger portion of the day, and gone to school in the evening online, online wasn't a thing when I was in high school, but
yeah, it wasn't.
I know today there are still students like me, right, that are growing up and having to pitch in with their family. Or
Right.
I've had multiple friends, that were pregnant in high school and dropped out. But if these mamas could do school online, and then because they can't afford, daycare, and not every high school has daycare on site. I mean, there's so many different issues that this could help, your credit recovery students within your districts, right?
Yeah.
These schools they could be statewide, but they wouldn't necessarily have to be if we give the districts and these charter schools, whether they're brick and mortar or online, a larger menu of options so that they can be innovative and figure out what works for their student body.
Fighting for having these options for parents and making sure parents are voicing out these options, and sometimes not having these options taken away from them, right? it's not that they favor one school over the other. It's they want more options, because most families like mine, I mean, I had 4 kids. Not all my kids went to the same school. And a lot of parents are the same in that same situation, because each child is different. They learn differently. And so you find what's best fit for them. But if it's an option that's going to be taken away, it's, it's only hurting the student.
Right. And I love the line, parents have nothing to apologize for.
Oh, wasn't that Shapiro that said that? I remember that one.
And it gave me goosebumps and gives me goosebumps every time. I honestly want to make a vinyl sign or something that says that, because as parents, sometimes we feel like we need to apologize when really all we're stinking doing is fighting for our kid.
Mm-hmm.
Why should I apologize for that?
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that, to fight for what your kid needs. And so that gave me goosebumps. I hope it gives you goosebumps and gets you fired up. I was like, hallelujah, yes, amen.
And Emily had a lot to talk about too from the Texas Public Policy Foundation about lifting the moratorium. I mean, she mentioned that.
And that's a weird word. A lot of people, when I first started, I didn't know what
I didn't know what a moratorium was either.
Like
what is that again?
Dead people? Like mortuary? Like not that. A moratorium is like a block.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where there's a freestanding moratorium, this word, where in 2013, these charters and ISDs could have online full-time schools for theirs, but no one else can. And so that's what we're talking about, is lifting that moratorium, make that go away so that more, ISDs and charters can offer the innovative type of school that works for their kids.
And then she also mentioned about the barriers of if a student is wanting to, and then I don't know if it was Bryce or Emily that brought it up. It's like if it's a new parent coming into Texas and they were a virtual school student, and say they came to Texas and they want to continue into a virtual schools, Texas has these barriers about attending the public school. Was it the year before?
Right. The prior school year, you have to have gone to your government assigned school. And so
that's just a
reason why somebody wouldn't do that, right?
It's just
for whatever reason. Not saying it's a bad school, it just doesn't work for their kid.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, think about these.
They just moved
moving to Texas,
summer, right? Or they didn't know that.
Yes.
Right? Mom or dad got a job and they moved here, and they didn't even have a chance to go to the school year, a Texas school.
Right.
Last school year, because it closed in March.
Right. Yeah, a lot of people are surprised. Not only, native Texans are surprised at these laws when they start, switching, but also people that come to Texas that are new, that they're shocked by the barriers that we have.
Right. Well, and I guess I didn't know, it sounded to me, there was a Florida panel as well, and it sounded like Florida has that same barrier that you have for online school. So I need to look back into that. Of course, I'm on the national board for, National Coalition for Public School Options. I probably should know the ins and outs of every state, but that's why I have staff within each state that they really know the ins and outs of that state. And then I come in and help back them up. But
so Bryce also mentioned too on your panel about having help to parents for physical books, materials while they're doing online learning. I mean, he's like, this is what needs to be talked about in legislation. I'm like, that is so true.
Right.
I mean, a lot of parents were thrown into, every parent was thrown into this distance learning. And all of a sudden we got to pick up the cost of, I got to buy supplies. I got to buy, something to write with. I got to buy paper. There was a lot of things that parents had to buy. And not on top of that either. I mean, they got to think about the food. There was a lot of families that rely on school for breakfast and lunch for their kids. I mean, So to help a parent with that would be great.
Yeah. Yeah. And what it kind of, I wanted to share, there's not just, so if you did register, you can go to the resources page. And of course you can reach out and we'll probably put it on the My Child, My Voice, all of these websites, so that you can, even if you didn't attend this conference, you can see the resources from this because they're really good resources. I wanted to share a screenshot that was disturbing. That text, so Emily Sass was one of the speakers on the Texas panel, and he works for Texas Public Policy Foundation, and they do great, things within that state. So I'm going to try and, I don't want to do screen. What do I want to do?
You want to share.
I want to share. What do I want to do? How do I want to do this? All right. All right. I'm showing you the wrong thing. So try it. Oh no. See, this is what happens. It needs to get bigger. Okay. So this is a picture. This is not what I wanted to show you. This is a picture of an in-person parent leadership conference and kind of what it looks like. So this year was online, but this is the Texas Public Policy Foundation. Sorry, don't get dizzy. I'm going to scroll up for a second. This is some data that they found. And what I love about Texas Public Policy Foundation is they find data, they do research on things, and then they make a call to action to our legislators and to our constituents, right. To the regular voters to push for. So this is Texas Public Policy trying to let all of us know that most Texas children test below grade level, y'all. That's not a good thing.
Oh.
So across the state, 54% test below grade level for reading.
Now look at math.
And math is 50-50. That's not good, right? And so they have, what Texas, they kind of give data, and then they say Texas legislators should, direct school boards to set meaningful and time-limited goals for improvement. It's like, hey, you need to improve by this time at each district in their math and reading. And then they need to monitor progress towards those goals and whatever that looks like.
And it even shows you, if you go down to the next page, the number of % of students reading below grade level across Texas. Look at that.
Yeah, there's some red states. And this is not just, these are the worst areas. They just couldn't give you the data for every county. So they kind of tried to give you data from different regions. But, down here in Brownsville, 56%. Not reading at grade level. All the way over in El Paso, 64% not reading at grade level.
Now look at
That's
Houston.
why we have students. Yeah, Houston's not so good either.
I'm not proud of that, but I mean, Houston's on there and it tells you.
But that's why we have kids graduating from high school or dropping out of school or graduating from high school without reading at grade level. And kids dropping out because they cannot keep up because they were behind for so long. They get put into, sophomore English, and they're expected to write an essay about, the grapes of wrath. And they're like, I can't read the grapes of wrath. Thank you very much.
And, I have to say, parents, this is an organization, if you want to follow, to get information about policy. And they're really great about putting these like one-pagers together for us to really understand it. Because I know when I went up to Austin, it was a different language. And it was so great to have like Emily Sass and the team there at Texas Public Policy to really tell us what's going on to families that came to Austin to testify. And this actually is a really great tool to use if you're going to go talk to your legislators, because you can actually show them or talk about, these are great talking points that you can bring up. If you live in these counties, if you're in Texas, it's great talking points that you can bring up to your legislator.
Right. And you can look at their call to actions and kind of reiterate those call to actions, right? As a constituent. I wanted to also kind of show you guys a couple other PSO, National Coalition for Public School Options. Sorry, I'm gonna make you dizzy again. I should have scrolled up earlier. kind of our key findings that we found over the last year. Sorry, I went too far. So survey results. What is the most important thing to parents when it comes to their child's school? 92% said school safety, that they were in a safe learning environment. And 73% within that group said it's extremely important. Because as parents, we get it. If our kid feels unsafe, they're not learning. And I, as a parent, am at home or at work worried about their safety. And so that is, school safety is super important across our great, not state, country. This is a nationwide poll. And then free from bullying, 89%, and that 61% said that's extremely important. And I've met, honestly, hundreds of parents across just Texas where their kids were being bullied in their government assigned school. And so they had their child's life physically and or emotionally was at risk, and they had to look elsewhere. And then just that their school in their community, is top rated, is extremely important for 63%. Our other thing is teacher quality. We want quality teachers for our students. And that doesn't mean that is necessarily, we want quality teachers, but we also want the teachers to have the tools they need, right? We can have right now, I know personally, quality teachers that are struggling.
Well, actually, Robert Inlow from Ed Choice brought that good. They brought their own
their own data
as well, and he was talking about how teachers did not feel prepared. I forgot what that percentage was, but it was a high percentage where teachers themselves said that they didn't felt prepared, even though there were some parents that did feel that they were prepared for this fall semester, but there was a lot of teachers that were saying they weren't.
Right. And is that up to the teacher to go and take some courses over the summer? Is it up to the teacher to pay for that out of their pocket? Is it up to the teacher to, I know teachers that, I don't know if you've ever heard of Teachers Pay Teachers. It's a website. Mm-hmm. Curriculum and things you can purchase that are created by other teachers. And I noticed that, because I've been using it for a long time teaching myself. And I noticed in the last year, a whole lot of digital resources for the teachers to be able to use. The school districts don't pay for that.
No, they don't. And then
have to pay for that out of their
they should be supporting their teachers. So that's a good question, though, Shea, that you brought up. Teachers Pay Teachers. Is that a website that a parent can use?
Oh, yeah.
For online distance learning or homeschooling?
Absolutely. Go check out Teachers Pay Teachers. You can Google almost anything. So I was teaching a computer class and a photography class. What else was I teaching? Communication. I work with the Boy Scouts, so I was teaching different merit badges and Cub Scout things for younger and big kids. And guess what? It was all online. Instead of me teaching at camp, I was teaching online. And so I just went in their search and said parts to a computer, and it showed me, and it gave me pre-done PowerPoints. Hallelujah. It moved and had videos embedded, and I didn't have to do it, but I had to pay for it, but you can look up, first grade math. You can look up teaching how to measure angles, if you know that your kid's doing that, but they're only getting, I'm hearing so many kids only getting, 20 minutes a day maybe of instruction from their teachers, and then they are on their own. So if you need to figure out how to supplement that learning and you have the extra money, yay. I have seen a ton of teachers and even moms on Facebook and other social media saying, hey, and they have a thing on Teacher Pay Teacher where you can donate. And so that would be a nice thing if everybody pitches in $5 to a Teacher Pay Teacher account for their teacher. That gives them a little bit more to be able to do, because the problem is these districts or brick and mortar charter schools did not have the mechanism and the programming already in place to be able to switch, you know, their methodology or how they taught from using a whiteboard and paper books to online, where, you know, existing online schools that have been around for 2 decades already do it.
Right.
They already had that methodology in place, but our districts who had barriers to that did not have that. And so then those teachers weren't trained in the new methodology, right? Or the new methodology again is, and I kept saying it over and over again on my Texas panel, full-time online school is not Zoom. That's not what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
It's interactive and way different. We don't even use Zoom. We use the whole different platforms that have been around a long time. And then one more I wanted to just show, if you did, you know, register for Parent Leadership Conference, you can go back in. Sorry, I'm squirrel. That always makes me dizzy when people do this. But you can go to what day and you can watch the things. You could go in, look at the resources, all that kind of stuff. I'll stop sharing.
That's what I did. It was very easy for me to go in and, but that's because I had registered for the actual conference.
Right.
And it was easier for me to pick, you know, like if I was behind, what I loved about it is day 2 had already started. I hadn't finished day 1. I was able to kind of go back in and see, and then go back and catch up to day 2. And then now it's like I can go anytime and look up what I want to watch or fast forward. So it was really good. It was really good information to hear from everybody, especially like when Corey DeAngelis was on. When he was talking, he brought out a lot of points. This is what I love about listening to him, because he brings not only what's happening in one specific state, he tells you all over of what's going on, and, you know, or he gives you, I mean, because he's a data guy.
We need the data though, because honestly, that's what I always talk about. The data talks to the brain of the legislator and the parent talks to the heart. So if you don't have either part, it's harder to grab the attention.
I mean, because one thing I really did love about what he was talking about is how, you know, a lot of parents came together. I mean, he gave us data like the Learn Everywhere Facebook group grew from about 15 to 20,000 people. The pandemic pods, you know, have been growing. You know, he was giving data about that part. I mean, just to hear all of this information was just, and then shocking of what's happening in other states that stop choice for families. That was just, wow.
That literally are districts, and I haven't heard of any in Texas, and I could be wrong, but I have been watching Corey and other people talk about what's happening in other states.
Well, he mentioned about Oregon and Pennsylvania.
Well, yes. So they're putting barriers where it's like, well, only this many people can do this option, and that's it.
Well, what about the one thing that he brought that really floored me was when he said there was an instance where there was it 16,000 kids that were accepted into a public charter school, and then because of they made it illegal for parents to switch to a virtual charter school. They had to place these students on a wait list. So here they are thinking they're going to go into this school, and then all of a sudden, boom, nope, sorry, you can't, because they made this, you know.
This interim law. In the meantime, because they were scared that they were going to lose, you know, their students. But in the meantime, we've got states and cities or ISDs around the country that are 100% online or 25% or whatever the percentage. And I understand that. But yet they're saying, oh, well, you can bring your kid and they can sit in the cafeteria and we'll have somebody there helping them with their distance learning since you have to go to work. Oh, it's $250 a week. We're going to charge you. So not only are you still getting my tax dollars, but now I have to pay you $250 a week so that you can watch my kid during the day when normally that's where they are.
Yeah.
I thought, I don't know how that's legal. How
Yeah,
is that
that's what
legal?
he was bringing about. It was just like, what?
And
I think we
outside,
can
I
do the dip too, you
understand
know?
at the YMCA or the karate place or the gymnastics place doing that and charging you some money. And I understand paying them. If you have the ability to do that, then great.
I mean, that's what
Cool.
he was bringing about, some really good comments about teachers unions demanding, I mean, which is great, safe schools. They have great, you know, things that they are demanding that make sense. But, you know, to ban a new charter school, ban voucher programs, bans, you know, policing free schools, like some of these are good, but a lot of these are not, because they're taking these options away from parents. And
Right.
it's just crazy what they're demanding. I feel, you know, it's, when hearing him talk, I was just floored.
Well, and you know, and I drive for different things, and I got a little emotional just this weekend thinking about the teachers unions and how I have friends who are teachers and they will not be part of the teacher union because they say they don't fight for what I want. And I know that sometimes they do fight for what the teachers need.
Right.
But thank goodness for the, you know, National Parents Union. We have a teachers union that fights for the teachers.
And now we have a parent union.
Now we have a
Parents.
National Parents Union to put out the voice and fight for what parents need for their students, for their children, for their babies.
Yeah, because we're authentic voices. We are parent voices, and we are tired of sitting in the back and telling us that we have to be quiet, sit down and be quiet. No.
Right.
I mean, we are a strong supporter of, you know, of the public school education system.
Absolutely.
I mean, we're not saying that, nope, you know, we don't want it. That's not what we're saying. We're saying that there's more than one delivery system of schools that's best for kids, right? And it should be on a choice.
Within, you know, your assigned school, that we need to fight for whatever they need within that assigned school. And to be able to empower parents feeling like they're part of a group. Hallelujah.
Yeah, that they're not alone. They have, you know, we are fighting the same fight. That's what we're about, because we are tired of hearing lawmakers or interest groups that are saying, you know, we're doing this in the best interest of parents. Are you?
Did they talk to a parent?
I don't remember you talking to me.
Talk to the middle class white lady. Did you also talk with a Hispanic group and African American group and our Muslim friends and our Asian, like, did you talk with all the demographics, even just within your ISD, right? Even within, almost, depends on where you live, almost every ISD, there are multiple demographics. And you cannot just talk to one parent. You know, hallelujah. If you can have a parent, even one voice, seat at the table, great. But we need multiple parent voices to have a seat at the table.
And speaking of parent voices, I really loved when y'all brought in Tim Tebow, because I really didn't know a lot about his story. I mean, everybody knows him on one aspect.
Sports.
Yeah, the sports part of it, everybody knows that. But to hear that he was homeschooled, but I think what really got me is when his mom challenged him because he wanted to drink protein shakes. and she she convinced him, you know, if you can say how the protein shakes can help athletes, you know.
Yes, it was for a science fair.
For a science fair.
That was like a homeschool state science fair. And she's like, you want to drink protein shakes? Have a hypothesis, have an argument, do your research, and if you find that your findings show that protein shakes are positive, then you can do it.
And then he wound up winning first prize in the science fair, of the homeschool science fair. I was like, what?
She cannot say, no, you can't have, you know, protein shakes, because he's thinking won a science fair, mom. So.
I mean, I thought that was a great story to hear him talk about that and how homeschool actually benefit him. It was great to hear his stories, you know, about that, him reminiscing about it. And you could see the smile on his face when he was talking.
And I get emotional and goosebumps for him as an adult man to see how his mama went to bat for him and his siblings, and the honor and the respect that he has for his mom and dad, because they went to bat for him, literally, and then he went to bat later, right?
Right.
But that they were doing whatever they could for the best interest for their child, and giving that he knows they gave up things, right, for their kids, and when they didn't have food growing up, that really his humble place, from a very humble place, and for him to honor his mom and his dad by bringing them up continually through that talk was a beautiful thing. One of my favorite quotes of his during his speech or his interview was, "There can't be one way of learning because not everyone is meant to learn one way." And he wasn't saying everybody should be homeschooled like him.
Nope.
At all.
That's not what he was saying.
Not at all. And he was talking about how, he suffers from dyslexia, and how they had to his parents had to think out of the box and get him the resources that he needed to be able to learn in a different way, and how the whole family would get together when he got a new play for football. And because if he just read the playbook, he wouldn't understand what they were saying. He has to walk the plays. So is it kinesthetic? Is that the right, where you have to move and do hands-on, right? I have to do that too. I remember learning, and I had a great English and drama teacher that would let us, I'd be having to learn a script, and I was the only one who would walk around and say I would whisper them, because she was like, too loud, like everybody else can hear you. Everybody else was sitting there reading it and they would do fine. I couldn't learn that way. So I had to walk around and read my lines to memorize them. And so yay teacher for looking outside the box and being innovative. And that's what we need. This is the great awakening of education, for parents to be able to understand there's options, for kids to be able to learn in different ways, and for teachers and schools to be able to deliver in different delivery methodologies, using different systems to be able to grasp every single child. It is not okay anymore for my baby to not get what he needs. I don't have any cheese. In education.
Yeah, I mean, for my kids, my 4 kids, my oldest kids went to the neighborhood school, but that's what worked for them. My youngest kid, it didn't work for him. And we had to find what was going to help him and support him. And we got fortunate he was able to go to a public charter school. So parents know best. It's true what that statement is. We know our kids. And with this pandemic, our eyes were open to see different creative and innovative ways that parents were doing things in their kids' education.
Right.
They were being more involved, not by choice, but I mean, we didn't like that we were thrown in there, but it was, I really do have to, pat the parents on the back and say, great job, and then 2, for supporting other parents. Like, hey, this is what I've learned. Check this out. Sharing that information. Or even parents that has been doing this for a while, sharing their knowledge with other parents. So I have to.
Right. And another quote from Corey DeAngelis was on a panel with Carrie McDonald, who is a great advocate for options within education and unschooling and homeschooling. And one of their favorite lines that I had was, parents have been put in the driver's seat of their child's education. And hallelujah, we've been sitting in the back seat for too long, letting somebody else do the driving. And maybe we were taking a really side and bumpy road and our kid got tossed out the car, right? They did nobody buckled them in. But as a mama, you're going to make sure everybody's buckled when you're driving, and you are going to use your GPS and find out the best way to get where you need to go, right? We're not using an old roadmap anymore. We have a GPS with organizations like National Parents Union and National Coalition for Public School Options to be able to give you the tools to be able to drive your kids to where they need to be. And do we as parents, after this pandemic, after this school year, it's up to you as a parent. Are you willing to get back in the back seat?
Exactly. And then that's where, you know, Howard Fuller, when he came on there, one thing he did, I mean, he's a great speaker. But one thing he brought really back to it, and I really loved what he said, was to take seriously your responsibility as a citizen to vote in the November elections. But then he also said, here is, I hope when you vote, you understand the gravity of your vote. You know, as we are talking about everything that's happening, everything that's going on in our nation, the importance of voting. You know, he was bringing this back all together, you know, about, you know, parents' choice and supporting the parents' choice. And because the only way we're going to do it is if we step up and take charge, not only in our kids' education, but to go vote. And that was one of the things I love that he said that on there, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we go into the legislative session. Right after voting happens, we're going into the legislative session. And now these people you voted in, you need to let your voice heard. And so that's one thing I appreciated from the Parent Leadership Conference, is they kind of change things and the look of things, right? Normally, if you go and you advocate, you go to a district office, you go to the state house. I don't know if they're going to let me physically in the state house. I have not gone to any district offices in person with COVID, right? Mm-hmm. I doubt that, you know, all the viewing area of over the Senate or the House in Texas is going to be open for people to watch, if the legislators are even in person, or if they're going to do it in a different way.
Going to be interesting,
right?
Discussion.
Right, it will be interesting. So how do we get our voice and our story heard now? I can't sit across the table from them in their office, right?
Well, I think a good point was Donald Miller that did How to Build a Story Brand, where he was talking about what was great, where he was kind of walking you through. I think the thing that really caught my attention was the average brain burns about 6 to 8 calories a day to process information. I'm like, oh, I didn't think about it that way. You know, the most important brain. But what I loved about him is he was saying is how to advocate, you know, for your cause, how to do it within, you know, get their attention and not be the hero, but the guide.
Yes.
For the hero. And I love that, you know, the way he was talking about that. If you haven't had a chance, you really need to watch that. And one thing he meant was, you know, how to meet the guide. And he's like Yoda is the guide for Skywalker.
Exactly. And our kids are the Skywalker and we're the Yoda, right?
We know
Skywalker. We know Skywalker's, you know, strengths and weaknesses and how to teach him in the Force. So we go as Yoda, right? And now on the phone, or even making a short video, emailing, tweeting to, you know, every single legislator has a Twitter. Mm-hmm. And they follow it because that is where the movement happens. That is where change honestly happens and where you can let your voice be heard. And so you say at, and then whoever that legislator is. And in the search up in Twitter, you can search, you know, whoever. Now I'm blanking on it.
Well, here's the thing. It's really get to know your elected officials first, you know, research your elected officials. If you haven't had the chance to really get to know who represents you, find that out. Each of your state has a website, a government website that you can identify by your address. And in Texas, it's who represents me, and we can type in our address. It'll tell us, you know, from state board educator to our Senate to our House rep. It'll give you all that information. Then it takes you to the website, and then you can see everything about their issues. And if they're running for office, then that's another thing you need to pay attention to see is what are they going to be pushing if they're elected into office? Is it the best interest of your community? Is it the best interest of what you feel that needs to be for the community, right? Those are the things is looking that up and researching. Of course, I can I can keep going, but this is what we were talking about when it comes to the election is do your research so that you understand it. Talk to your elected officials. They're humans just like us. Like
Right.
Shea
I
mentioned, moms, dads, grandpas, grandmas.
But I love how when you go to their websites, because I've been looking them up. I'm saying, okay, there's a name on the side of the road on that poster. Who are they? So I write it down real quick because sometimes I forget. And I just Google them. And then I get to their website and they have, this is my stance on education. This is where I like to see it go. This is my stance on tax reform. This is my stance on blah, blah, blah. So you can put a star by their name. Make yourself a little stinking cheat sheet for when you go for your local elections and then your state and your national elections.
Mm-hmm.
Or while you're weighing between people, right? You may not just be, okay, I'm just going to go just straight Republican or just straight Democrat down the board. I'm knowing more and more people now are not doing that because they need to know how that individual believes and thinks, because things are kind of a little bit more fluid.
Yeah, it's understanding what's on your ballot. Research that first. So when you go to the polling places, what you're going to be voting for, and find out, what's happening. Sometimes we don't always know what's happening in our community. We know some of it. I can't say we know all of it. There's so much moving parts.
It's not our job.
Yeah.
Right? We're not doing that every day for 8 hours a day or whatever.
But I think the important part is doing the research. I think it's taking a pledge, right? Taking a pledge that you're going to go out and vote. Taking a pledge to encourage other people to vote is the important thing.
Yeah.
And I know with National Parent Union, if you need that help, download our free toolkit that can help you how to spread that awareness in your community, to your family, to your familias, your tias, your tios, your neighbors, your friends. How do I get that awareness out there that how important it is to get out the vote?
Yeah. My last, before we go, Wendy, I wanted to give a quote by Senator Tim Scott. So he's one of our congressional senators, from, DC. Great. I love him. He's a powerhouse, always has the back of the parents. And he knows what the parents want because he listens. And because parents choose to say their voice. So he wouldn't know what the parents want without parents telling him, right? But he says, when parents have a choice, students have a chance. And it's powerful.
That is powerful.
So as a parent, make sure you know what your choices are and reach out to us with how we can help you to make a difference so that your child can have a chance.
And I think my favorite quote from Ruth Bader Ginsburg is, fight for the things that you care about, but do it in a way that will lead others to join you. I love that quote.
Beautiful.
But that's all that we have for today. We can keep going, actually, if you want.
I know.
We could keep going, but about our favorite people and what they've been doing, for our nation, for our state, if, like Shea mentioned, if you hadn't had a chance, if you had registered, go back and check out, all of the different panels that they were showing on there. Go to their website. Shea will put the website on there. Once they announce that you can go in to watch those recordings, they're just waiting.
I just need permissions.
It happens. But make sure to catch our show on Thursday. We're going to, speaking of representatives, we're going to have a Representative Anna Eastman from Houston District 148 coming in on Thursday, talking to learn about how this mom made changes in her community. To learn more about her, that's going to be on Thursday at the same time, same back channel. I always wanted to say that. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Until then, stay healthy, stay safe. And then I'm always going to say this is mask up. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great day. Thanks
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.